Hello, my name is Sherry Avila, and I will be your hostess today for Avila Chicago, Making a Difference. And we have with us today as our guest Carolyn Smith-Wilson, who is the adoption coordinator liaison for ChildServ and a program called Adopting Foster Children, Wendy's Wonderful Kids Program. And our Carolyn Smith-Wilson has been working in this field for 17 years. And she's going to share with us a little bit more about this Wendy's Wonderful Kids Program. Okay, Carolyn, could you tell us a little bit about what is this Wendy's Wonderful Kids Program? My husband had an idea. Is he wrong or is he right?
He's right. He's in the ballpark.
Right. Oh my gosh!
Well, actually, Wendy's Wonderful Kids is a signature program of the Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption. And what Wendy's Wonderful Kids does is they hire adoption recruiters, which is what I am. And what we do, 100% of our time is dedicated to matching kids who are free for adoption with parents who are willing to adopt.
So you match kids with parents who are willing and interested in adoption.
Yes.
And now, how long has this program been in existence?
Well, actually, the Dave Thomas Foundation began in 1992 by Dave Thomas, who's the founder of the Wendy's restaurants. And he established the Dave Thomas Foundation, being an adoptee himself. He grew up in foster care. So after his passing in 2004, the Wendy's Wonderful Kids Foundation was launched. And what it did was specifically hire adoption recruiters to focus on designing recruitment plans for kids who were in foster care, who were in need of a pre-adopted family, who did not have one identified.
I see. Now, so let's see if I understand this. Dave Thomas, is that his name, Dave Thomas? He was one of the founders of Wendy's?
He was the founder of Wendy's restaurant, the Wendy's chain of restaurants.
And so he decided that there should be a foundation, or there is a foundation called the Dave Thomas Foundation.
Dave Thomas Foundation for Adoption.
And he was, and it specializes in adoption.
Yes.
I see, because he was adopted himself.
Yes.
I see. Well, that's very interesting. Now, why is it important to adopt children who are foster kids?
Sherry, the reason it's so important to adopt kids in foster care is because you're providing them with stability, you're providing them with permanency, a forever family, and actually a family to call their own. You're taking them from the foster care system, and that's really a plus, because a lot of kids, an average onset of wait in foster care to be adopted is approximately 5 years. And people who decide or commit to adoption, they're minimizing this time, they're removing the kids from the foster care system, and they're providing them with stability and a supportive and loving family. So that's why it's so important to adopt, to invest in adoption, to commit to adoption.
So we're looking for stability.
We're looking for stability, we're looking for permanency, we're looking for people with a heart and an interest to providing loving care, support, everything that you would give a child of your own. That's what we're looking for.
So now children, so when children are in foster homes, they don't have the same, well, of course they don't have stability for sure. Actually, my sister-in-law took in many foster children, not she herself, but her parents took in several foster children during the time she grew up. And actually, during my lifetime, I've met several people who were foster children, and quite truthfully, some of their experiences were not as positive as we would like them to be. In fact, they were kind of like horror stories, to be honest with you. And maybe one of the advantages of being adopted into a home is that maybe adoptive homes have more, they do more investigation in them, and also if a person's looking to adopt a child on a permanent basis, they want to assume that responsibility, not just financially, but also in their heart.
Yes, yes. And actually, to qualify to become a foster parent, we basically follow the guidelines as set forth by the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services. So there is a background check that occurs, there's fingerprinting, there's an extensive background check that occurs actually There are classes that you must take in order to become a licensed foster parent or a licensed adoptive parent. That is one of the main requirements. You must be licensed in order to adopt, based on guidelines of the Illinois Department of Children and Family Services, and also set forth by Wendy's Wonderful Kids. So there is a really rigorous process that you go to, so we can make sure that everything is credible, that background checks have been covered, and then everything is appropriate.
So they take parenting classes. Now, how long are the parenting classes?
Based on the licensing process, I'm not sure the actual length of time, but there's a protocol that they go through, and classes are set up through the licensing department. Parents who are interested in becoming licensed adoptive foster parents, they're referred to our licensing department, and the licensing coordinators will set them up for whatever trainings they may need and begin the licensing process.
Actually, I took parenting classes on my own.
Good.
I took several parenting classes. I have 3 children. They're all natural born, but my husband and I both took parenting courses because my feeling has always been that I've always got more to learn.
Yes,
I can't learn enough. There's always something new and different, and I like to learn new, the most progressive, up-to-date methods, of taking care of children and educating children.
And actually, the procedure, the classes are called Adopt Pride, and it's really quite extensive, and they cover a lot of information regarding the whole adoption process, and parenting courses are offered. You touch on various subjects regarding adoptions, and you have the opportunity to ask questions, anything that you may be uncertain about. Those Adopt Pride trainings are very thorough, and a lot of the foster parents have come to say that the trainings gave them a lot of very good information that helped them in the long run.
Well, I think also, even if some people think they might know something, and maybe even have been raised in a relatively stable home, that still, I always feel like there's these holes, these gaps. And so I might have known A, but I might not know B, and I might know C, but I might not know D. So it's good to fill in the gaps.
Yes.
So that's wonderful that opportunity to take a parenting class exists, and I think that people should always welcome that opportunity, and I suspect there might be some cases where people might be somewhat resistant to that opportunity. Because I know some people think that they already know everything, and that's an easy thing to think.
Yes, it is.
Because, and maybe they think they know everything from watching TV. And, Father Knows Best or whatever is on the latest, or Seventh Heaven. That's on TV, that's all the best ways, to raise a child. And certainly they give you ideas.
They do.
And I'm not, truthfully, I'm not putting it down because I think those writers that write those TV shows like that, they go to a lot of trouble to get real life scenarios now. It's not like the old days. I think they actually try to put real situations in. It's not all the hunky-dory stuff.
Like it used to be.
Yes, like it used to be. Like, I remember some of the old-time stories that were, everything was perfect. And we all know that nothing is perfect.
No.
In fact, I have a little sculpture in the front of my house that has the 3, what is it? Is it the monkeys? And where they have their eyes covered and their ears covered and so forth, and it says nobody's perfect. And I like to try to remember that, and not be too, critical of even, truthfully, the person I'm usually most critical of is myself. So what are some of the challenges that you have in recruiting families for this program?
Some of the challenges are, a lot of people think that you have to have a whole lot of money in order to be able to become a foster parent or to become interested in adoption or adopting a child. And those are like a lot of misconceptions that people have, because basically all you have to do is have the desire, the will, and the love in your heart to want to parent. A lot of the costs are offset, and through the Dave Thomas Foundation and them partnering with different private agencies, they make a lot of adoptions affordable and more accessible to people who are interested in adoption. So a lot of people tend to think that, well, if I don't have a whole lot of money or thousands of dollars, I can't adopt a child. That is truly not true.
And as I recall that this friend of mine who adopted 5 children, that some of them had some learning disabilities, and I believe she was able to get some extra money for the learning disabilities, or I think there are compensations for certain problems.
There are.
And also if there's a physical disability, I think, too.
Yes. There's a process that you go through becoming, if you're interested in adoption. Once you make the commitment to adopting and you begin the process, there are adoption subsidies that you complete, and there is money that's provided for the children once the adoption is completed. They do have, many go on to go to colleges. Financial aid is a plus, and going through the process and with the subsidies that you'll receive, it helps a lot of the cost, lets to alleviate a lot of the cost.
Well, that's good that people understand, and that would be good for people out there listening to this to understand that you don't have to be a millionaire.
You don't.
You can be an average Joe Blow and be eligible for adoption.
Right.
And that there are special funds that are available for special situations.
Yes.
In some cases where children have special needs.
And you also have the luxury of having an adoption liaison. There are attorneys who will assist you with any questions that you may have regarding the adoption. If there's anything that you're unclear of, they just don't match you with a child and just close you out or finalize the adoption. You have support. You have support services that you can contact if you have any questions. And everything is really reviewed thoroughly before you actually finalize an adoption. So you have the opportunity to look at everything and basically review any questions that you may have. So it's not like a rush process. You do have people who are knowledgeable in adoption, as myself, and others who will assist you with the process.
And about how long would you say an adoption would approximately would take?
A lot of the length of time for an adoption, it varies from child to child. By the kids in my program, by them being under DCFS, under foster care, there are guidelines that we must follow as far as protocol with DCFS, and there are court appearances that you must take, and also it all depends too on the person who's interested in adoption, how long it takes them to complete the adoption process, because there are a number of things. Not only do you have to take the adopt prior classes, there are background checks and medical information that you must obtain. So it's a number of dynamics that go into the entire process. But the sooner that you start it and you commit to getting licensed, that basically gets the ball rolling. And once a match has actually been made, and a match means if a person who's interested in adoption becomes licensed and they're matched with a child who's legally free, some other barriers we must adhere to as far as with the adoption rules as set forth by Illinois is that a child must be in placement at least 1 year prior to the completion of the subsidy.
I see.
So, for example, if we make a match, we must adhere to those time frames before we can go forth with the adoption process.
I actually have a cousin who recently, I'm not sure if the final adoption went through. It might not be till May, I'm not sure. But she, I was so thrilled and surprised. She lives in Peoria area, and she works as a secretary or an administrative assistant for an insurance company, and her husband works for was working for Caterpillar, and they had one son that was their biological son, but actually he had a vasectomy and he had it reversed and was able to have that one son, but apparently that was very lucky because after that they couldn't have any others. And so one day I got an email from her that she was adopting a daughter, a beautiful daughter, and they named her Kristen, and I get every day practically I get all these pictures on my email of Kristen.
Success story.
And I think Kristen's a very, very lucky girl. Now this cousin comes from a family of 10, And so actually, so, you know, you can see right away if, I mean, it's coming from a family of 10, you're not necessarily, I mean, there are some millionaires that come from families of 10. I'm not saying they're, you know, but nevertheless, it's a challenge, you know, nevertheless. And so yeah, it was just a thrill, though, when we found out that they adopted their daughter, Kristen, and how happy their son, Tyler, was to have a little baby sister. So it really does enhance the family. It, you know, makes you feel, makes everybody feel happy. It even has that ripple effect. I'm all the way in Chicago, and I get an email with a picture of Kristen, and I'm happy.
Great, great.
So now, what qualifies a child for the Wendy's Wonderful Kids program?
You must be in foster care.
Okay.
Okay. You must have a goal of adoption, and you must be legally free for adoption.
Okay.
To be in the Wendy's Wonderful Kids program.
And what kind of children do you have available? Are they of all races?
Of all races, nationalities, ages. We recruit kids. We recruit kids from different areas throughout Chicago, from other private agencies. And the child must be in need of a pre-adopted family. Those are the 3 qualifications.
So in order to adopt the child, there's a screening process.
There is.
And you said they take your fingerprints.
There's a licensing process that the adopted parent must go through. You must be licensed, first of all. So if you are interested in becoming a licensed foster parent or an adopted foster parent, you need to get licensed first and foremost. And that's a procedure that my agency can help you with. We have a licensing unit who focuses on recruiting people who are interested in either foster care or adoption. And there's a process that you go through. And we have monthly new parent orientations for people who are interested in becoming either licensed foster parents or adopted foster parents. It's the second Tuesday of every month. And we host those meetings, and anyone of interest who has a desire to become a licensed foster parent or to adopt can attend those meetings.
And where are the meetings held?
They're held at both of our sites, 4909 West Division and 5401 South Wentworth.
Maybe we could bring up that info page now that we had at the beginning so that people can see the phone number and the website. And we'll go over that phone number and website too. Would you like to tell us the phone number and website?
So anyone who's interested in becoming, interested in foster care, becoming licensed, or with a desire to provide a child with a loving family can contact us at 773-867-7323. Or you may go onto our website, which is www.ChildServ.org.
Okay. And what is your favorite part about working for the Wendy's program?
My favorite part about working for the organization is that I have the opportunity to provide a child with a forever family. I can give them closure. I get to see that smile on their face when I tell them that this is your family and you can stay here forever, and they love you and they have invested in you. And also seeing them have some input on helping to choose their family, I get that overall personal satisfaction from that.
Now, is there any kind of a support program for people after they, or I don't know about during the process or after the process, let's say after they've adopted a child, is there like a support group?
Yes, there's a post-adoption unit that they can refer to if they have any other questions after the adoption has been finalized. So there are support services in place that will assist them.
And have you had any adventures or any on both hands, maybe on the one hand, something that just made you very happy in your experience of adoption?
Every time I make a match, I'm excited. I've made several matches. I'm awaiting adoptions to be finalized. And so far, we've had our program for almost, July 1st will be 2 years, and it's been going really great. We recruited a number of families. We've recruited children, and the matches have been made, and everything has really been working out. And I've seen a lot of positive feedback from people who call to inquire about the program. The WWK program now has a total of about 87 recruiters in all 50 states.
Oh.
We have recruiters in 2 provinces in Canada, and by the end of this year we expect to have over 100 recruiters who are dedicated to matching children with families.
87 adoption recruiters.
87 adoption recruiters across the United States.
Across the United States, in every state?
In all 50
all
states.
50 states.
And 2 provinces in Canada.
And 2 provinces in Canada. Now, do you do cross-cultural type
we
of
do with other Wendy's recruiters in other states. We have the opportunity to share resources. For example, if I have a child who I'm in need of a home for, another recruiter, let's say Wisconsin, may have a family who's interested in a child that age and gender. So we have the luxury of cross-referencing with each other and sharing resources. So it's really been working out really well. It's really a great program. I love the commitment from the foundation as well as, of course, from my agency, and I'm just very excited.
Well, my cousin adopted an infant, or under a year old. I think it was about 2 months or 1 month, or real young. But what you're saying then, too, is that you can also adopt children of all ages.
All ages. Currently on my caseload, I have kids between the ages of, say, 2 to 14.
2 to 14 years old? 2 to
14, different ages.
And is it typical that the 2-year-olds are a little easier to adopt?
Yes, the 2-year-olds are a little easier to adopt, but there are people out there who are committed to adopting older kids. And there are older kids who want to be adopted. Most people think that teenagers who are in foster care do not want to be adopted or don't want to have a permanent family. That's a misconception. There are teenagers who are, very much interested in being with a loving and family who's interested and committed to them.
I have heard of cases where actually they've benefited tremendously. I interviewed a father, Kevin Thomas O'Neill Shanley, on my TV show, and technically the show was on women and that were Irish, but I found out that he had a Chinese foster brother and some other foster siblings. And so there are many people out there that have foster siblings, and as well as, really, you don't always know because people don't always talk about it.
Right.
But I know there are members in my church who have adopted children also. One of the members, now we're going to touch on this. Why do people sometimes go to these other countries to adopt a child? Why do they go to Russia or Romania or wherever else, China? What brings them to another country to adopt a child?
I think that a lot of times people tend to go to other countries to adopt because sometimes they don't like to go through the whole process
all
based
that red
on
tape?
the red tape of becoming licensed. They rather just, cut all that and just pay money and adopt without having to go through the specifics as you would have to if you were doing like an adoption from a child who is coming out of foster care.
But have the rules loosened somewhat in terms of the people who are eligible? What about nowadays, are they now doing the adoption with the, how do we word this, the same gender parents?
I have not experienced it within my agency, but I know there are a lot of agencies that are, but you cannot discriminate on the basis of
That's why I wondered.
I have not recruited any families yet. I hope to. I would definitely be open to the idea, but I have not had the experience yet, but I hope to.
And parents who might be a little bit older, is that becoming more flexible now?
Yes, actually I've matched kids with foster parents who decided that they now wanted to adopt and have committed to doing so. A lot of them used to have the misconception that they're not going to allow me to adopt a child because maybe I'm in my late 60s or 70s, but that's not the case now. You just have to have the desire, the interest, and have the willingness to do so.
And probably it depends upon the overall picture.
A support, a network, a family network, and a backup plan. Backup plan.
Yes. Right, the overall picture and the backup plan, right. And so, but if they go to another country, they're taking a risk too, because these children may not have had a physical, a medical exam.
You may not have the opportunity to get a lot of the history on that child, the background information, whereas going through the foster care system, we're at liberty to give you full disclosure on the history of that child, specifics on their medicals, and a lot of times you may not be able to get that if you're doing an international adoption.
And then also when people travel overseas, they have to pay a lot more money just to make that trip.
I'm told the cost can be as much as $10,000 or more to do.
Oh, I have heard more.
Adoption.
Because one of the ladies from our church adopted in Romania, and I think she had told us that it was a minimum of $30,000, and they were still paying it off. They probably borrowed money to do this, so it's a huge investment. And also the traveling can be sometimes dangerous, because I've also heard of cases where people have arrived in these countries and they don't get the babies, and not necessarily because they're not qualified, but
they may have promised it to someone else. A lot of I've heard stories of situations like that too. There are a lot of illegal activities that sometimes go on when it comes to a lot of international adoptions. But there are kids available here in Illinois.
And they're all different races.
All different races.
All different ages.
Yes.
And they are probably...
just in need of an adoptive home.
Yes.
In need of an adoptive home.
Children who might want to be in a home where there's a pet, if you have a pet, or in a home where the parents like to get involved with sports.
Yes.
Maybe there are people who like to be involved with the t-ball, the soccer.
A lot of kids, when they're age appropriate, I do very much give them the opportunity to take part in helping to select their family. And kids have specifics they want. Some kids say, well, I want to be in a two-parent home, or I like to be in a home where I have a little brother. And those are things that I definitely take into consideration when I'm trying to match a child with a family. I also do a profile on that family. There are pictures that I take, so I can share information with the kids on the family so they can get an idea of the makeup of the family before they actually meet them, and also vice versa as with the child and the family.
Well, that's wonderful that the child gets to participate.
Yeah, and they do. They love the idea of having the opportunity to have be a part of the decision making when it comes to their lives, and they should, when they're appropriate, age appropriate, they should have the opportunity to have input. Yes. Because we're looking at a family who they're going to be with forever. So by all means, I definitely like to give them the opportunity to have input on that.
So they could decide if they want a brother or a sister?
Or
they don't want a brother or sister.
Or they don't. Or I may want to be an only child in the home. I may want all the attention and no other siblings.
Now, what about when there's more than one child from a family that needs to be adopted? How is that handled?
I like to keep siblings together. There are kids on my case.